Subscribe and press the bell icon on YouTube app and never miss another update.
I'm Sagarika from the final year of Media Technology, and she's Anushri, and then the crew are Sanjeet and Omkar.
Okay, go ahead.
So let's start with the session. So how was your journey in news Times Now?
Yeah, so I started in Times Now in 2005 when we were bringing about the channel, launching the channel. It was at that point of time there were just 3 English news networks: NDTV and TV Today's Headlines Today, and CNN had just begun about a few months earlier. So 2006 is when we went on air. It took about a year for us to complete all the strategy and all the equipment purchase and everything. Since then we have been it's the first few years were obviously quite tough because the environment was pretty much new, and we have a small audience that looks at English news as such. So in a universe of 100 people, only 6 actually view English news, and for us the priority was to increase the viewership share and maintain a certain equity in the market. So that was the idea when we started out, and post the attacks in Bombay 26/11/2008 is when the viewership started picking up for English news. That was where, sort of the watershed moment for us, and till last week we have held on to a lead of over 40% of the market share since then, for about 9-10 years now. And the idea is to push the paradigm of breaking news, of keeping live news, keeping your viewers engaged day after day, structuring the news around a 24-hour cycle. Who's viewing the news in the morning, who's viewing the news in the day parts, and who's coming to you for the prime time. So accordingly, your shows, the way you structure your shows, those are designed. Then there's the technology part of it, which are the technologies that we marry to ensure that the delivery of our news is faster than anyone else. So those are the 2 parts that have gone into making this channel.
So being graduated from MIT Manipal in 1997 with electronics and communication engineering in first class, how did you find your way in broadcast industry?
Right. So when I started out, when I finished from MIT, the job that I got was with an engineering firm. They were working in the broadcast space with broadcast equipment, with what is known as CU band, KU band antennas and DSMG vans. And at that moment of time in the 90s, 92 was when satellite television came to India. 95 was when live broadcast began, and 98 was the first election that was done live in India, live broadcast. So at that time the talent pool was very small, and technology and content were amalgamated functions, which is what happened. And then slowly that's all we did, and right through the 20 odd years that I've been in the business, it's been an amalgamation of technology and content.
So how is your experience in running the newsrooms, planning and executive content strategy?
Right, so we lead a very lean team. We are one of the thinnest organizations as far as news goes. A lot of young people of your age group who work continuously, and so what we need to do day after day is to make sure that there are a few elements that come together to interest the viewer, right, and to hold on to his or her interest through the day. So each news has to be substantiated with its follow-up and so on and so forth. So to run a newsroom is a lot of effort. It requires us to be we spend about 14 to 15 hours at work every day, and then when we go back we keep checking our phones. So that's how it works, but that's the way it is. That's what I've been doing for the last 20 odd years. I mean, but it's a very exciting space to be in. because you know that each day is going to be different. You have to practically discover gold every day. So that's the challenge. The biggest challenge is that we are we are engaged in what is known as the television rating points war. There is an agency that monitors all channels called BARC, and that agency gives us rating points for whatever we put on air. And every Thursday the ratings come to us. So we have an exam every Thursday, and the results are always difficult. And so each hour of broadcast is analyzed separately, and each hour is, so we know between 6 to 7 in the morning, 8 to 9 in the morning, 8 to 9 in the evening, how are we performing, are we lagging behind a certain other channel, is there something we can do to regain the viewer or get past, if another channel has been able to take our market, why has it been so, and then where are we distributing, which part of India is watching us, which part isn't watching us. Those are the decisions that need to be taken. Change every day, every hour. So you have to be updated with that information every day. So we can actually, for editors, we can view the ratings every day, but the consolidation happens on a week-to-week basis.
So hobbies and interests apart from work, please?
Well, I don't have much time for much else, but I do like to travel and I like to read. Yeah, so that's more or less. Now that I have my kids, I like to try to spend a little bit time with them. But other than that, yeah, nothing else. Work is more of a hobby than anything else. Yeah, it's a passion that drives you, because it's in this kind of business you have to be really driven, otherwise there's no space. And for anyone like of your generation who wants to get into media as such, you have to forget that there is no glamour in media. I mean, if you all imagine that when you walk out of college you're going to meet Shah Rukh Khan the next day, it's not going to happen. So the people who work behind the force that appears on camera is a very tough job, and it's a very demanding job. You take out every ounce of your effort, but in the end of the day, there is a product that you're putting out that is consumed by so many people, which is what drives the adrenaline day in, day out.
So who's your role model? Who do you follow?
Well, in broadcast, I mean, my first boss was Raghav Bell, and he's always been someone I've looked up to. He was, he was not an immediate boss, but he was the head of the company that we were in. So he was a very good person. And others also whom I worked with through the years, they've all been excellent editors and producers. I worked with TWI, which was we used to do live cricket, and at that point of time there were several people who were leading the group who were very motivating. So we just look up to those people to just do what we do.
So team always comprises of multiple ideas and mindset on a single subject. How do you deal with such situation and content strategy decisions?
Right. So in news, everybody will have an opinion, right, about what kind of how you should view a particular news. But as the editorial in charges, we have a role to say that this is how we will look at news, and we have to ensure that our teams have to believe in the way we do things. It's a lot of motivation to the younger people, because we are now almost the last generation of the people who did virtually everything. Now people who come straight from journalism school and they work, but our generation was different. We had to actually work the ropes before getting anywhere. But so it's the new generation also has a very short attention span. People who work with us, they tend to have shorter attention spans. But for us to motivate that team day in and day out, I have a team of about 40 or 50 people who report to me, and they work out of places like Srinagar, Guwahati. So my reporter is reporting one day and a bullet runs past his immediate friend was shot dead 2 days back, about a week back. So how do you motivate a guy coming out of that circumstance? Those are the challenges. So that is what we have to do. So if you have to tell a guy to go and report from Kerala where there is he has to stand in neck deep water, so it requires some motivation from our side as well.
What advice would you give your younger generation who see themselves in the field of journalism and media strategy?
Right, so it depends. Like I said, I don't think any young person should believe that you are going in it for the glamour or for the fact that it's associated with bright lights and stuff like that. If you have a passion to deliver for content as such, whether it is to the technology field or as a content creator, then that passion should drive you to do something. And if you work in a good organization, irrespective whether it's ours or anywhere else, and if you find that drive motivates you to come back the next day after your first day at the work, then you know that you're doing something right. So you could be in a bank for the rest of your life signing checks, but end of the day, I've known people who do multi-million-dollar jobs, but at the end of the day, they're just doing the job, right? So in our work, in our business, it's not really. It's obviously it's a job, but there's also the drive to do it, to come back after a late night. After I remember when elections or something like that happens. We finish our work would finish at about 3 in the morning, and then we're back the next day at 8. So to do that on a repeated basis requires you to be self-motivated and to believe that this is what you're in it for. That's a sort of a long-term thing that people either have it or they don't. So that's it.
One practice that helped you grow in your career?
Well, I think that for me, it's always been to keep my integrity about myself, irrespective of, because we are working in an environment where there are always challenges, right? So somebody or the other will always call you up and say, why are you putting this out? Some politician will call you and ask you, can you drop that? Can you not put it out? My reputation is at stake. So your integrity is where it all ends, that you have to resist those forces day in and day out and make them believe that, look, for example, we did the Kerala story about this nun who was allegedly sexually molested. So I'm a Christian, so I got a lot of calls from everybody trying to allude to my faith, that I was unlawful to my faith, but I said, my faith has got nothing to do with it. Then the subject is news, and I believe in the subject. It's got nothing to do with my personal beliefs or non-beliefs. Leave that aside. We have to report the news in a faithful manner and create an effective environment which will bring the change. So when you report religiously, relentlessly, day after day, you will see that effect happen, and the guy was arrested day before yesterday. So that's what happens that's the impact of news.
That's all we have for today.
All right, great. Thank you so much.